this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today we will have a look at the great book How We Learn by Benedict Carey. How We Learn. Subtitle: The Surprising Truth About When, Where and Why It Happens. Benedict Carey is an award-winning science reporter who has written for the New York Times since 2004. And in this great book, he walks us through some fascinating research on, as the subtitle suggests, when, where and why learning happens. And if you're a student, maybe a part-time student, a teacher, an entrepreneur, writer, artist, whatever, or just an actualizer who wants to supercharge your learning, I think you'll love the book. And here are 5 of my favorite big ideas. And to help you go from theory to practice with these ideas, there are the 3 friendly reminders I want to give you. First, just as we go through this, reflect on how these ideas relate to your own life experiences. Second, feel into what really resonates with you and what doesn't. And thirdly, write down simple sentences or principles or instructions for yourself on how you can apply these ideas to your life. Alright, having said that, are you ready to see how we learn? Good, let's actualize. First big idea, contextual cues. This is a scientific term, and it's a really fascinating term because there was a experiment done with scuba divers that Benedict talked about. So you put 2 scuba divers in 2 groups of scuba divers would study a list of words while they were underwater. Then they would have a little break, and you would send one scuba diver back into the water to take a test there to see how many words they could recall, while the other one was on land taking the test to see how much he could recall. And the results? The scuba diver who had studied and been tested on the same material in underwater, in the same environment, performed 30% better than the scuba diver who had studied underwater and then gone to a different environment to do the test. And the basic takeaway is that our environment affects how much we learn, how much we are able to retrieve. And he makes a distinction between storage and retrieval. Retrieval, strength. Storage and retrieval, strength. And storage strength basically means that everything we take in through our senses of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell is stored up in our minds. And in other words, we remember everything we ever take in through our entire lives, if we believe the researchers. But, and this is a big but, if we don't train our retrieval strength, we won't be able to retrieve that learning from our minds and be able to use it in different contexts. And that's why contextual cues are so important. Why scuba divers perform worse when they aren't able to take the same contextual cues of being underwater and use them on a test. So let's dive into first another example. If I ask you a question, what is your name? That's a cue, which instantly makes an answer pop up in your mind, and you think your name. But you don't go recalling and remembering your name every single moment of the day when you don't have any cues, because people don't go around asking you for your name all the time. And the same way with where we are, what we hear, see, feel, taste, and smell. They help us recall what we have learned. So some examples. It matters where we are, like we saw in the scuba dive experiment. So you can have split students into 2 groups. One group will study the same material twice in the same boring basement. The other group will study the same material twice, once in that boring basement and once in another room where there are windows and you can look out on a courtyard. So those are different environments. Then you put both groups into a third neutral room, which is nothing like the other rooms, and they are there being tested. And the results? The students who had studied the same material twice everyone studied the same material twice, but those who had done it in two different contexts, two different rooms, were able to recall 40% more words than those who had studied the same material twice in the same place, same environmental cues. So, 40% better, just by switching places where you're studying. And also, this works with music, what you're taking in. So, here you have three groups. One group listened to jazz music while they're studying some lists of words. The other one listened to Mozart, beautiful piano music. And the third group has complete silence, not listening to anything. And see here, they don't have any extra contextual cues to help them retrieve their memories. And what these groups did, first, they were the jazz group was studying while listening to jazz. Then they were tested while listening to jazz, while listening to Mozart, and while having complete silence. And same with the Mozart and silence group. So we have jazz, 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 Mozart, jazz, silence, Mozart, jazz, Mozart, 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 silence, and so on. And what they found was that those who had listened to the same music while studying as they did while being tested recalled nearly twice as many words as those who had listened to different music when studying and being tested. So, and another fascinating finding was that the silence group, those who had silence both when studying and being tested, since most of us aren't able to use music when we are being tested, they performed worst of all. And the researchers thought that silence might actually inhibit our learning and our memory. And one possible reason for that is that we don't have these extra contextual cues. We don't have extra cues from our environment, from our senses of hearing melodies into our minds. Right? I just quickly want to tell you that I had completed the whole recording of these ideas and was really proud of myself and looked, and I saw the recording had stopped after 8 minutes. So, where were we? Let's begin. That's some of the research on where we study matters and what music we listen to matters for our learning. But it isn't as important exactly where you study or what music you listen to as actually varying what you do. So, how can you vary where you're studying? What are the places you will go? 1 or 2 or 3 places? What music will you listen to? Third big idea, watering your brain. This is a really cool idea that Benedict shares, and it's to illustrate the idea of the spacing effect, which means that instead of doing all your studying and reviewing of what you have studied into one intense block where you study everything, or you study it for just a few weeks before the exam, you instead space it out, giving you much less anxiety and much better results than if you had crammed everything. So this is a great illustration of watering your brain. So Benedict lives in Los Angeles, where they have a cultural commitment to the pristine lawn. They have this coastal desert climate, and it's really important to have beautiful lawns. So what he noticed over the 7 years he has lived there was that if he just spends a lot of time dumping and flooding his lawn with water once a week, it will be really beautiful the first days, but then it will lose its green emerald gloss. But if he instead spent the same amount of time and spaces it out over 3 days in that week, it looks much better, more consistently throughout the week. And same with our learning, using the spacing effect. It's much better to space out our learning. So not spending any more time, not working any harder, but remembering a lot more and being able to understand much more. By doing it spacing it out over a long period of time instead of cramming it all in one session. Thus, this watering your brain. When will you have your study sessions? Do not cram. And the fourth big idea is the Zeigarnik effect. Benedict shares a story about a psychologist and his student who was looking they were having a talk at some cafe because she was needing a topic for a research paper. And what one of them suddenly noticed was that the waiters would not write down their orders that the customers had taken, but they would instead just remember them in their heads. Sandwich, yeah, got that. Cappuccino, got that. Would remember it. And they would always remember the orders and come back to them and back to the customers with what they needed. But what they noticed was that if they had finished an order and the customer had paid, and if you then asked them what was on the order, they wouldn't remember it. Because it's just like they had checked off the box in their heads when they had received the payment. Didn't have to think about it anymore, just let the information go away. And that's because our minds really don't like unfinished tasks. They will keep reflecting on and trying to find the solution if it haven't arrived at a solution or finished a task. So a lot of great thinkers have used this to gain great breakthroughs. And one way we can use it is by reviewing our problems that we haven't solved and review what we have learned just before going to bed at night. Because if we do, and we haven't really finished what we have started, then our mind will keep reflecting on it throughout the night. It might give us more revealing insights than we would have had if we hadn't used the Zeigarnik effect. Using unfinished tasks for our benefit. The fourth big idea is sleep plus naps. The basic idea is sleep is very powerful, and there are two major reasons for that. When we sleep, we are able to filter out all of the information that we don't really need to remember and use from the key ideas. And we also consolidate our memories, can connect what we learned to what we already know to our previous experiences, so we're able to draw them into larger and more contexts, different situations in life. And naps work in the same way. Studies have shown that if you take a nap for 60 to 90 minutes, you have the same effects of memory filtering and consolidation as if you slept for 7 to 9 hours. And 7 to 9 hours is what Tom Rath says that is the optimal amount of sleep 95% of us need if we want to perform at our best. And he says that in Eat, Move, Sleep. So are you sleeping for 7 to 9 hours every single day and prioritizing it in front of that extra TV show, in front of that extra chatting on social media, or whatever it is you do? And you can consider taking naps, 60 to 90 minutes. They're good for your brain. So that's sleepless naps. The Zeigarnik effect: use unfinished tasks to work for you, to finish unsolved problems. Watering your brain: space out your study and review sessions instead of doing everything in one crammed block. Places plus music. Where you study and what you're listening to while you're studying matters. We want to vary our practice as much as we can because of the contextual cues we add. The stimulations we have from our environment in through our seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting and smelling, which will give us cues to remember what we learned. Just when somebody asks you your name, you know the answer. So that's a quick look at How We Learn by Benedict Carey. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I think you'll enjoy the book. Now, what's the number one idea that most powerfully resonated with you? And what are the one or a few key principles that you have written down in 1 to 2 sentence statements? These short instructions for what you will do to apply these ideas to your life. A good tip is to review them for 30 to 90 days to really make them an embodied part of who you are. Something that you just do subconsciously without thinking about it or putting in any extra effort. Alright, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. As always, have another awesome day, and let's actualize so we can give our greatest gifts in the greatest service to the world. See ya.
Hi, this is Frode. You might know me from the work I do on YouTube, but I also want to tell you that you can gain access to a ton of more wisdom at my website, actualizer.me. And here, I focus all of my energies on answering the question, how can I help you actualize your life on a day-to-day basis? Because I know that even though you want to actualize your life and develop yourself, you're too busy to read all day. And that's why I'm all about sharing wisdom made practical. Fun, inspiring, and practical wisdom you can apply to your life immediately. And I do it through something I call actualized notes, which include big ideas from 100 plus of the best and most transformative books on optimal living. It's notes from a fellow actualizer who wants to embody and help you embody these ideas more consistently in your life. And these actualized notes include 100 plus practical PDFs, which is 6-page PDFs with condensed wisdom ready for use. These are recorded into 100 plus MP3 guides, because all ANs are recorded as MP3 so you can actualize on the go. I also create 10 to 20 minute ANTV episodes, which I upload on YouTube. And these are again converted into MP3 files so you can get access to them on the Actualized podcast. And all this work includes over 750 big ideas from ancient philosophers, modern scientists, and your own common sense, explained for easy use. You can get instant access at my website, actualizer.me, and you can get a free 30-day trial, and then it will be $10 per month. You can cancel it whenever you want, and I price the membership program so low, so you can tap into practical wisdom no matter how you're standing financially. Alright, I hope you'll join me on this hero's journey of actualizing our potential. See ya.